Welcome to another edition of Success Talk. This is Dr. Herbert Harris, and each week we bring you people who have had challenges, who have made breakthroughs, and who have achieved incredible things. Today we have a guest, and I like to call it a young lady who is making her mark in the marketplace, in the business arena. Mayah Collins, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that. What a lovely introduction.
Well, I was looking over some of your internet presence, and I'm just so, really proud of you to see that you have really jumped on this whole digital world and the marketing world. And yeah, tell us a little about your company. I was impressed with that.
All right. So my name is Mayah Collins, and I'm the founder and editor of Fruit of May. And so Fruit of May is a lifestyle publication. So we have our magazines, and here's one, for instance. Our magazines, it really focuses on self-love, self-care, and inner peace for Black women. And so on the inside, you can definitely find a lot of personal essays. You can find short stories, poetry, and just things in general that make up a lifestyle magazine.
Wow. Well, I was super impressed with it, and I think that's a voice that needs to be heard, and it's a young voice. This just looking at it, I appreciate that. I think that it's I don't know of any other magazine that's really sort of going down that vein. I think it's almost like a special lane that you've created.
I'm really trying to, honestly, because a lot of times, people have stories to tell. And a lot of times they may not have that opportunity. There may be, gatekeepers or things of that nature. And so what I found, over the years is once people come together at, events or even when they contribute to the magazine, is a sense of feeling heard, feeling like who they are is enough, and that there's other
Mm,
people, in the community who's able to listen. And also Fruit of May provides like a safe space for, individuals to feel comfortable about embracing their superpowers, I would say.
mm, mm. Well, as you were saying that, I thought of a saying that it said, "When all you have is all you have, and all you have is enough."
Yes.
Wow. Now, tell us a little about your background. Where'd you grow up? Your early years? How did you get started on this whole journey?
Okay. Well, I am from Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and I grew up with my mom, my dad, and two brothers. So I'm the middle child. And I've always had an interest in writing per se.
Mhm.
And I got started when I was it's really interesting. So the backstory is I was 7 years old playing in my parents' backyard, and we had all of our friends, in the backyard playing. And I decided to have a notebook. And I
Mhm.
went to each and every child and I asked them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And like looking back, it was a serious question to me at the time. I really
Mhm.
wanted to know, what did my friends want to become when they got older? But also, I did not know too much about journalism or even being a writer at that
Mhm.
young age. So looking back, I feel as though that was something that I was passionate about, but something that I was able to build upon over the years with my
Mm.
interests.
Mhm.
So I decided to go to Meredith College, and I studied mass communication and sociology. And then I also wanted to, learn more about the digital age, I would say, and more about journalism when it comes to multimedia.
Mhm.
And so that's why I decided to go to Columbia University is Graduate School of Journalism.
I did not know that.
Yes, yes.
Now, when were you there?
2015.
Okay.
Hmm.
Let's see. My daughter graduated 2014.
Really?
Yes.
So she graduated from Columbia, the university, the undergrad?
Yes, undergrad, Columbia College. Yep.
Awesome. That's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
small world, right?
Yes, yes. And the School of Journalism, well, I went to Columbia, well, this is it. She graduated like on my 50th anniversary. Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
That is
It was
nice.
it was so funny. We were there at the they have the alumni activities, and people came up and they go like, wow, Herb Harris. So my friend said, he said, man, everybody knows you from that class. I said, well, there were only two black guys that graduated, and the other one I think is dead. Okay, so
So, it's not too many people to choose from, right? Like, I
so
get it.
yeah, that's interesting. The School of Journalism. That's great. Now, so there you really so you got your master's in journalism.
Hmm.
Beautiful. And so that transition on to doing the magazine was very natural then.
Yes, it was very natural. So mentally, I didn't really think about having a magazine at first. So I just wanted to write about my thoughts. So a lot of things that I focused on was natural hair care, things that pertain to, hip hop. I really love hip hop. I consider myself a hip hop enthusiast a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and other things I would say that's like plaguing our communities.
Uh-huh.
And so from there, I realized I can't really do this alone. It's
Yes.
more important for me to share this platform. And so I opened it up to other women. And right now we have 7 contributors who are writing for Fruit of May.
Wow. Now, how often does the magazine are you publishing?
So far we have 2 publications, one that was published in 2021, the other published in 2022. In 2023, this year, we're going to have 4 more publications, which means we're publishing quarterly, and
Hmm.
we have one that's going to release in March. So
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
thank you. I should send you a copy.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, Rocky Mount was actually the home of what great jazz musician? Thelonious Monk?
Thelonious Monk. Yes,
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 yes.
yes.
Now, very interesting. Thelonious Monk, I met him a couple of times, but his wife was a friend of mine, his widow,
Mhm.
Nellie Monk. Yeah, yeah. Wow. Yeah. And
Really?
yeah.
How did you meet him?
Well, in Harlem, I mean that was the whole music era.
Mhm.
I was there in New York, and the clubs around that was like every place had a club, the Club Baron, the Count Basie's club, and everywhere you went, that was a part of the whole Harlem, mystique. Even the Cotton Club, the new generation of the Cotton Club, because that has evolved over many years.
Okay.
But after he passed, uh, Nellie Monk was a good friend of mine, a good friend of a mutual friend, and Nellie was a real vegetarian. She'd had some health challenges, and so I used to take her friend up to get bananas by the bushel
Mhm.
up at the in the Bronx. There's like a produce area, and so bring back a bushel of bananas for her. So yeah,
That's a good story. Yeah,
yeah,
I went to the community that where he's from,
uh-huh,
and I was told the Y
yeah,
community, like near the
yeah,
train tracks in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. But
yes,
I'm always excited, and not too many people know that
yeah,
actually that he was born in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
he, moved up north, but
Well, the interesting thing, his son was a T.S. Monk,
mm,
and there was a period in which Monk Thelonious went to Europe,
mhm.
and during that era of real serious segregation, many black artists, I mean, from um, um, Thelonious Monk, many of the black entertainers went to Europe, and they were very well received,
Mhm.
and France in particular. So if you think about here, you're coming into a foreign country, you have a passport, but technically you couldn't work in that country,
Yeah.
technically. But they sort of let it go. So Monk and many other musicians, James Baldwin, the writer, was there. So they kind of turned a blind eye and let their music go. And his T.S. Monk at some point challenged the government and was able to get a substantial amount of royalties that
Mm,
had accumulated over the years. So,
mm.
yeah, that was a very interesting. And then what was the lady who was very instrumental? Um, the dancer. Um, she lived in France and she died in France.
Is it? Oh my gosh, don't not Baker, right? No.
Josephine Baker, yes,
Okay.
La Baker. That's what they call it in France, La Baker. Yeah, and I mean she was huge. I mean,
Yes.
she was one of the first black women to like star in a film, a
Mm.
European film, and she ran back and forth between France and Germany even during the war.
Yes, yes. Bad stories to be told. I love Miss Baker, everything
Yeah,
about her. So
yeah, yeah.
she is definitely an inspiration. Strong black woman.
And she was making like $10,000 a week. I mean, she was making huge money. But you know what? One of the things that really hurt her when she came back to America after she'd done films and really achieved international recognition, there's a story of how she went to the Club 21
Mm,
in New York, and they really wouldn't serve her. And they reminded her that she's still a black person.
mm.
I'll say that euphemistically.
Okay.
Okay. And one of the great writers at the time, one of the great newspaper writers who she thought was a friend, it really hurt her, and then he saw the whole thing and did not do anything about it. It was like,
Mm.
although we were friends, you're still Negro, you know.
Yeah, that's a sad part. That's a sad thing about it, I would say.
Mm,
Being able to elevate so high, and no matter if you're high or low, no matter what your economic status is,
yes.
just living the life elsewhere than coming back to your home and being treated such a way is just it's devastating. But
Well, I mean, at the end, if you get a chance, I went to the Tuskegee Airmen Museum,
mhm,
and the Tuskegee Airmen, they were telling how after they had been to Europe and fought valiantly, and when they came back, they got off the ship in New York, they had people there saying, "White people this way, colored people this way."
mhm.
After you've gone and given your life for your country, so
It's not back into reality.
back into
Wow.
reality. Now, as a young person, in your field and in your endeavors, have you what has been your relationship, you might say, to racism and its impact on what you've been doing?
Well, again, I'm from the South, Rocky Mount, North Carolina,
Mhm,
and I would say it started very young,
mhm,
just seeing my parents, what they
mhm,
had to go through with minor things, everyday things. For instance, I remember when they were trying to get a house and just the idea of redlining, looking back and just
mm,
being shown certain areas, regardless of their finances, I would say.
wow. Yeah.
So that right there was interesting because my parents, they wanted the best for us. And even when we grew up, also an experience with the cops being called on my father, and
Mm,
he was at his house, and that was his house. So it's like stories like that, where no matter where you are, it's kind of it's questioned, do you actually belong?
yeah.
Who are you? Is this your neighborhood? So the way that we had to carry ourselves was a little bit different, being conscious of, okay, certain places that we go, make sure that we don't go alone. Our parents had to teach us because we were, young Black children in the world. And of course, I have two brothers. So the way that the world views us is going to be quite different. And my parents had that wisdom and knowledge, you know, um, growing up to teach us because my father, they had experience with like Jim Crow and everything, they had like
Hmm.
experiences with that. So, and segregation and things of that nature. So just hearing stories from the
Hmm.
past and even how sometimes is still similar today.
Yeah, but there's a repetitive thing happening right now. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. So now, how did you go? Once you finished journalism, did you go into the workplace?
Mhm.
And what type of work did you do?
Yeah, so after journalism, so after Meredith College, like I would say 3 months after I graduated, I was able to land a job as a reporter, and I was a general assignment reporter. I started writing from the jump, getting to know the community. And then after that, I went to school at Columbia. After I graduated there, I started working for a print, like newspaper company.
Yeah.
And there I was in the sports department as I wasn't a sports writer, but I was, focusing on getting information out in regards to um, the sports, kind of assisting with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked as a digital content producer for a broadcast company in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really able to, use my writing skills and focus on that because I love print journalism. But
Mm.
now that we live in a digital age, we have to learn how to utilize social media. So
Mm-hmm.
I was able to do that. And moving forward, now I decide to have my own, platform and focus on that. I do want to say one of my internships was also at a print um, company,
Mm-hmm.
and that was in Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
Maryland. And so that was with the Baltimore Sun. And I was able to work with outstanding journalists there as well, just to give me an idea of what it means to actually be dedicated to your craft and tell outstanding stories.
Well, when you said the internship, my granddaughter, we were talking and to help her get an internship. That's something that is not, especially in the Black community. I don't think that we are really taking advantage of it.
Mhm.
How did being an intern help you in in your profession?
So being an intern, I was able to talk, like seriously, I had questions as
Mm-hmm.
far as how to navigate as a journalist, right? So, or even how to find good stories. So I
Mm.
was able to be paired with people who were photographers or even people who were journalists for like many, many years. They were
Mm-hmm.
able to tell me and teach me certain things and tricks. Sometimes it's not always easy to actually ask people questions and get them to respond to you or even trust you.
Mm-hmm.
So there was certain things that they taught in order for me to be perceived as, a credible, I guess, individual, someone that's not going to take advantage of other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an important thing too. As a journalist, people have to trust you and trust that you're going to the things that you're going to tell, how you're going to tell their story is going to be used for, for good. And you're going to actually have a balanced type of story. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. That's powerful. That's powerful. So for young people going to college, in college now, that internship can give you a nice, well, number one, good experience, you know,
Hmm.
and some contacts.
Hmm.
So now, as you made that transition, you were in the workplace. What made you decide, and what obstacles did you face when you decided to go from working for someone else to doing your own thing?
Well, the obstacles once I was already like started doing my own thing.
Yes.
Well, actually, you can't do everything alone.
Okay.
You actually need you need people to help you, So a lot of times as entrepreneurs or as dreamers, we have this humongous dream and we want to actually, do every single thing by ourselves. Sometimes we have to pass the torch, and allow other people to come in and help.
Mm.
And when I realized that Fruit of May has actually it's been able to expand a lot more and reach more people.
Mhm.
And of course, I started with a blog and started blogging, and then I realized this platform is bigger than me.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to other people who may have been interested, and a lot of the people who are contributing reached out to me
Mhm.
on my website. So that was one obstacle, realizing that you can't do everything yourself. You need a team of people who can help bring the dream together. And another obstacle that I would say is being too modest.
Too modest. Okay, that's interesting. Tell us more.
Because sometimes being too modest, you can become invisible.
Oh, okay.
Being
Hmm.
too modest can make you become invisible. And a lot of times I don't like to talk a lot about myself or my achievements or, even be in any type of limelight or just in public in general, as far as like what I like to do. And sometimes, a lot of people who may be going through something, or sometimes some people who may have a similar story and they want to know how you were able to achieve, or overcome those obstacles. They need to hear your story.
Yeah.
So that was one thing, me being able to start talking more about myself, because it's not always about you. Your dream and your vision is actually, it's a gift to you, but it's actually for other people. You know,
Mm. Okay. So that's really, I think, in a sense, you're saying living a life of example.
yes.
That many times you may see yourself at one point, but the impact you have is much more profound.
Yes, like sometimes we live our lives day to day, and then you don't know until people actually share with you how much of an impact that you had in their lives. Like I'm pretty
Mm.
sure you, with your book,
Hmm.
it's definitely left a lasting, impact on people, and you're like a living legend, I would say. So I'm
Thank
pretty
you.
sure people. I love your book, by the way. I know I'm kind of getting off subject, but your book changed my life.
Wow. Well, you know what? Let's talk about that because when I wrote the book, it was a point where I had like semi-retired, and I had been writing newspaper columns, and when I decided to really finish the book, and I say that many of us have books inside of us, and when I was able to just like get away, I actually had to leave New York because there were just so many distractions, and I moved to Cleveland and put in a good year writing the book.
Mhm.
And one of the things that drove me was that idea that the principles that we put down had helped me through different crises. I mean, and so I just felt inside this like the driving force was like, people need to know this. People need to get this message. If they can get this message, then they can change their lives. So, what were you doing when you encountered the 12 universal laws of success? And just tell us about your experience.
Well, I was in school. I was in grad school, and I was in New York. I was walking, and I came across a Black-owned bookstore. So I went inside, and I mean, this book really caught my attention because it's yellow. And I looked at it, and I really want to change my life at that point. I wanted to change my life as far as being um, more successful than what I was at the time, I would
Hmm.
say, in every aspect of my life. And that's what you were able to break down. But to me, what's very important is you just don't talk on a surface level,
Mm.
break things down in great detail and in depth, because some of the things that I've known on a surface level, but I've never really had to hold myself accountable as much as you forced me to. You talk about self-image,
Mm.
and you talk about, what does it mean? Like, what does it mean to have a good or a bad self-image? Are you contributing to self-sabotage type of deal?
Mm.
Is your image in relationship to how the world sees you,
Yes.
um, things of that nature, and just going through, you talk about the levels of consciousness and how you have to visualize what you want in order to make it happen. And these are like I've highlighted some of my favorite things, so that's why I'm reading across.
Uh-huh.
And one of the most important things that I read was you talk about the 4 stages of your life, and how important it is when it comes to your growth, because some of us can experience such traumatic experience, when we're young, and
Mm.
that can actually hinder us and hinder our growth as we get to adulthood. And
Yes.
so, a lot of the things that's in the 12 universal laws of success is like helping us if we have experienced anything traumatic, to get back on track. And this is what you need to do. This is how you need to plan, for success. You break it down completely. So there's no reason why, you can't come out victorious, I would say.
Wow. Thank you so much. Wow. I just love that. When I guess as an artist or a writer, whenever you feel that you've connected, that's what it's all about.
This is like one of my favorite books. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. Seriously.
Uh-huh.
If you can see it, like I have everything highlighted, underlined. Sometimes I think you provided affirmations here as well. And I have some of those jotted down, but I definitely would say it's a great book to put on your list.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayah. Wow. Now, it's one of the things that really, you might say, interrupted me in my flow was distractions.
Mm-hmm.
To move from the work environment to the entrepreneurial environment was distractions. Did you encounter distractions as you were moving in to set up your magazine and making that transition from the workplace to the entrepreneurship phase?
Yes. There's always distractions, and the types of distractions that I've encountered is more so like online. I had to take a hiatus from social media a couple of times just to make sure that I am focused on completing the tasks as necessary for me to grow, in my business. But sometimes, like me personally, I don't like to categorize myself and put myself in a box. But you can say a little bit, I am an introvert at times, and I like to live in the moment and to, be with my friends, this and that and the third. But nowadays you have to be online, you have to be on social media. And so I have to find that balance where it's not a distraction, where I am dedicating the time to actually post and to be seen, by people who want to follow me and learn more about my story. So the distraction is not to be online for hours. You can scroll on TikTok for hours. You can scroll on Instagram and Facebook and all these other platforms for hours, and you've achieved nothing. So actually coming up with a sense of organization to help me have everything flow easily, I would say.
And to get that balance. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, did you ever doubt yourself? Because many times I think when people think about becoming an entrepreneur, and you have those obstacles, anything that kind of blocks your way, have you ever gotten to that point where you doubted yourself and wondered if you really had what it takes?
No.
Okay, beautiful.
I don't, hopefully that's not surprising, but absolutely not. And I would say that probably has a lot to do with my family, my brothers. I have a really good support system.
Okay.
And they always support me ever since I was little. Everything that I wanted to do, they would support me and tell me that I can do it actually, or that I'm great at doing it. So hearing that constantly, it allowed me to move forward in life and fulfill my dreams and do the things that I actually want to do in life. So I've never, also God, I would say God as well, from the things that he's been able to expose me to in the rooms that I've been able to be in, I would say I don't have any doubt about the next step or where I'm going because of his word, I would say.
Yeah, yes. Now, Mayah, as I'm listening as a young person, that you've made this transition now to publishing a magazine, that if you look back on, let's say, where you were when you were finishing high school and getting into college, what advice would you give yourself? Like looking now, say now I'm a business owner, I'm a creator. What advice would you give yourself as you're coming out of high school?
To, I would say to make sure you remain consistent.
Okay.
Consistency can get you a lot further quickly. So remain consistent. Make sure that you stay on track. Don't allow anyone to knock you off of your goals. Don't second guess yourself. You already know your abilities. You're already confident in yourself and your abilities. So don't allow any negativity to seep in your mind and knock you off of your tracks.
Wow. Now that's some powerful stuff because, like you said, between digital, the social media interruptions, and and that consistency is the key. Yeah, that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where do you see this whole experience? What's your long-term goal for what you're doing now? Where do you see yourself in the next 20 years?
Oh, wow. So there's definitely going to be multiple issues of Fruit of May, of course. I see myself as having a multimedia platform, for women of color, but an extension of that would be for men as well as for children. Just sharing more light on the Black experience. And what exactly does that mean? So I'm talking about documentaries, I'm talking about podcasts, I'm talking about actually having a space where we can educate the next journalists, the next young journalists. So creating those type of platforms that will allow us to not have to struggle for so long also, because if I have the knowledge, I'm going to be able to help other people come along. I don't want anyone to struggle for the information that I have right now. So being able to create, of course, spaces and even nonprofit organizations in the future that will help people heal, help people write, and help people, love themselves unconditionally. Because we live in a world where sometimes it's hard, it's hard. A lot of things are happening. A lot of people doubt themselves. A lot of people may not even love themselves. And so I would say the key thing is to always remember that you are special. There's no one like you, even though there's like 7 billion people on this planet. No one has a easy life. No one has a life better than yours, so you have to come to the point where you enjoy who you are and forget about what other people have to say, because when you are confident in your being, it's like no one has anything else to say. What else do they have to say? You have embraced all of you.
Yeah.
So that's definitely my message to everyone.
Wow. That's a powerful message. I love what you say. Enjoy who you are. Man, that's a profound piece. So now, as you're going forward, now, are you married now? Do you have kids? Are you devoted to your work?
So no, I would love to have a husband as well as children, but right now I am totally single. I don't have any children at the time, and definitely not a husband. So we're working on that. Maybe 2023, things will change. So we'll see.
Well, I always tell my daughter, I said, look, you get to the top of the mountain. Believe me, you'll find there are a lot of people looking for folks at the top of the mountain.
Okay. I'll find them then, right?
Yes, yeah. Okay, wow. Well, Mayah, I tell you, this has been an incredible interview. I have enjoyed you so much. I'm impressed with you and your magazine, and I think that, what is your website for your magazine so I can add that?
Okay, so it's www.fruitofmay.com. And it's fruit as if like apples or things like that. So it's fruitofmay.com.
Okay, and so they can get your publication and so some of your writings and whatnot. And do you have a podcast also?
No, that's something that we're working on. But
Okay.
yeah, if you go to the website, fruitofmay.com, you'll be able to purchase magazines. And if you subscribe to the newsletter, everything that we are doing, you'll be able to have it firsthand. And we have a lot of exclusive content. So it's very important to sign up for the newsletters to get that in your inbox.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Mayah, this has been an incredible interview. I always, when I interview very interesting people, I always ask, is there anything you want to add? I ask questions, but sometimes you have a message that you want to share. Anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Well, before we wrap up, I definitely want to say thank you so much for having me on your platform. This has been a wonderful experience, I would say. And I also want to let everyone know that since we are a media company, we are writers. If you have a story or if you know anyone who's interested in sharing their story with Fruit of May, please reach out to us. Again, go to our website at www.fruitofmay.com and make sure you click on the contact tab, and we'll be able to get back in contact with you as soon as possible.
Wow. Well, Mayah, thank you so much for being with us today. My good friend from Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Yes.
Yes. I have another good friend there. Remember Reverend Walker?
Do I? I'm not too familiar.
Reverend Walker. He has a church there. He wrote a book on I think he had prostate cancer. And he
Okay.
wrote a book on overcoming that. And there was a song he at the rough side of the mountain. I think he had a gospel hit record once. But
Really?
Reverend Walker. Yeah, he had a beautiful church there in Rocky Mount.
Yeah, I love Rocky Mount. I
Yeah.
don't live there anymore, but Rocky Mount, I always and forever will represent where I'm from because I have such humble beginnings.
Well, I tell you, when I was a child, I'd go to New York. Well, my aunt, in the days of the Great Migration,
Mhm.
you always went up north, and so my aunt was in Philadelphia, and my uncle was in New York, and Rocky Mount was the last stop in North Carolina.
Yes, like so many people have heard of Rocky Mount or have, like driven through Rocky Mount.
Uh-huh.
And it's just amazing because we're on the map. When you're
Yeah,
driving from up north, you actually see it on, the highway. So
yeah.
yes,
So
252 Rocky
yeah, that's
Mount.
it. And so when you're going north, Rocky Mountain, say, man, I'm out of North Carolina. And when you're coming home, you see Rocky Mountain, like, oh, I'm on my way home. So,
Yes.
wow. Well, Mayah, thank you so much for being with us today. And to our listeners, this is one of those broadcasts. I love talking to young people because the future is always in their hands. Many people don't realize that in the days of Dr. King and the early days of the civil rights movement, most of the activities were centered around young people. The Greensboro Four, who started the sit-in movement, they were like first and second year college students, and so the young people are really, as they say, the future is in your hands. And so, Mayah, thank you so much for being a profound representative of your generation. And for our listeners, you may want to have a young person that somebody who's coming out of college or in college, somebody who's looking to put some direction in their lives. This may be one of those programs you want to listen to and have them listen to, because I guarantee you that when you hear this young voice talking about some of the things she's accomplished, it can motivate you and can motivate somebody that needs to hear this message to help them be what they want to be, do what they want to do, and have anything they desire, always knowing that the best is yet to come. And so it is.